Atomic Max Games just dropped a bombshell on us.
Oh yeah.
There is so much going on and so much that could go wrong with this that we just have to talk about it. We have some other plans for this week, some fun plans talking about stuff that we actually liked, and then this dropped on the Legion, the Armada, the Shatterpoint, the Star Wars universe. Anything associated with Atomic Mass Games had a bombshell dropped on it. And so
I want to just say a bombshell. It was a freaking nuke.
Yeah.
I mean,
and we have to talk about it. Of course, we're talking about the grand tournament announcement for Atomic Mass Games. Be advised, if you're listening to this after it's over, this is a live show happening every Saturday at 10 a.m. Denver time, which is not Central Mountain Time, Mountain Time for the United States. I'm your host, Isaiah.
I'm Dragon Master Jake.
And this is Locked to Loot. Let's get into this. So, first of all, let's talk about Worlds. What world the Worlds tournament is, which has always been held at Adepticon.
And not only that, but it's been held at Adepticon for years, and it's a major event. I mean, a lot of people showed up just this last year. Last year, I think Armada was the biggest it's ever been.
Yeah, so this year was the largest event Armada has ever seen. And because of that, there is a whole lot of stuff going on with it. This came out on April 16th. We're going to read through it. We're going to cover it because this affects everybody in these communities. And it is a huge thing because this Worlds event just ended. And they're suddenly changing everything that they did before. So we're just going to read through it real quick, and then we're going to talk about it because I want everybody to know what this is, what's going on. And more people need to be covering this because this changes everything for these communities in the next few years.
We're also going to be going over our thoughts on what they're setting up.
Yeah. So what maybe the idea behind it, try to create a silver lining if we can. Yeah. So, for the last 2 years, a number of players from around the world have gathered at Adepticon to compete in the culmination of the World's Tournament circuit. This is just some background. While this event has always proven to be an exciting moment for those lucky few players who qualify, it was becoming clear that the format was constricting rather than expanding the opportunities for the growing player base around the globe to engage in high tournament play. High-level competitive play. High tournament play. Right? That's it. That's Worlds. We gather at Adepticon. We play the games. I was there this year. I had a blast this year.
There was a lot of people this year, wasn't there? Over 200 competitors?
Oh, well over. We had what was it, like 100 tables or something, and then sector fleet and everything that went into it. It was a huge event. Yeah. Okay, the intensive amount of resources required to effectively run and expand the World Circuit year after year was immense. It accounted for the majority of our global organized play budget. Additionally, to preserve and promote its competitive integrity required extremely high levels of oversight and event requirements. This, by its very nature, meant that the number of regions capable of running a regional tournament were limited. We consistently saw that player communities, especially in developing areas or those areas with simple lower population, were being excluded from the chance to engage in what World's Tournament Circuit offered.
Okay, they're wanting to allow more people into the community, is what they're trying to do.
Yeah, and then the next section is very much about this. Hey, these little countries are not able to compete with us, and so because of this, we aren't getting nearly a change in the competitive level play. So countries which had the luxury of being able to host a regional saw the benefits not just within the player community, but as part of the player experience and the community as a whole. The engagement in the local store or club play was higher, engagement in the hobby and painting was higher, the excitement and anticipation around the games was higher. So essentially, if you were in a region where your community was active and running tournaments, you had more people engaging in the community. What a surprise! What a surprise that when the regions put effort into the game, we see the community grow.
Yeah.
Equipped with this understanding, we begin looking at the world circuit and how it was working to achieve our core goal of growing and supporting these games across the world. After a significant amount of discussion, both internal and with our global partners who service local communities, they led us to see that the resources being expended on worlds were creating an exclusionary environment rather than an inclusionary one. The cost of sending one player to Worlds was nearly equal to the cost of providing event support to a standalone 32 convention event.
I mean, when it comes to, because this is a worldwide organization where you have people coming in from all over the world, if they're giving the super
invite, essentially.
invite to people in Germany, the UK, in those kinds of areas, it's going to be expensive to bring people here. I can understand that point. And then the super worlds that are here in the US, it's fairly cheap to send somebody there.
Yeah, a couple thousand to send somebody to Worlds. Honestly, they are right about the cost. Like, hey, for the cost of sending one person to Worlds with a super invite.
And I think they're more focusing on the other countries, because to bring them here to the U.S., it's expensive.
To provide support that allowed all region and communities a core component of game growth, we need to exact a paradigm shift in how we were supporting high-level play. Working closely with Asmodee's global organized play team, we laid out a strategy, one that would better utilize our valuable resources and provide more opportunities to all, while maintaining what we saw as the most valuable part of the world system, the player experience found at regional level events. Grand tournaments represent the top-level organized play. They provide those players who wish the opportunity to test their skills against a wide swath of other players from there and other regions who wish to travel the circuit. The winner of each grand tournament is marked as a player of exceptional skill, having overcome a diverse field of opponents. Unlike Worlds, each grand tournament stands as its own unique experience. By doing so, this allows us to greatly increase the number of grand tournaments that can be held, and most importantly, the standalone nature of grand tournaments means that we can dynamically adjust requirements for a region to be able to host one consistent with the reality of the community in that region. This means that regions that with smaller overall populations or more limited resources are no longer excluded from being able to host their own exciting high-level events. Additionally, the ability to increase the number of events we can support means larger regions which have only been able to hold a single regionals event in a year now have the opportunity to potentially hold multiple grand tournaments. This means that regions like Australia or the UK can better service their communities geographically, opening the opportunity for players to engage in these events, who might have otherwise found themselves unable to previously due to conflicts with timing and travel costs. While each grand tournament will provide the same baseline experience no matter where in the world it is held, we are also excited for the potential of the system to allow the growth and expansion of convention-level play in each region. AMG will be working in partnership with Asmodee and our various regional partners to cultivate this program, being able to better focus on the unique needs of each event in a way that brings maximum value to the community. That's a lot of PR speak. That's a lot of PR speak about, hey, the cost is great. We would much rather do a bunch of smaller events, and we want to favor the communities who maybe aren't able to do these big events and give them an opportunity to still reap the rewards of these regional style events and maybe build their communities that way.
But the thing is having having Worlds is really beneficial, because then you get to have people compete against people across the world.
It is the top of the top, cream of the crop playing.
Yeah.
Everybody who went is a champion of their own tournament in their region. They won their local event. They won a larger event, and now they're going. Now, this sounds like a good idea. Hey, a bunch of smaller convention events around the area. You create an entire circuit of regional premier events.
But it's also similar to, we went to LVO, and that was a great experience. It was a much smaller event than Worlds, but it was still a great event.
I honestly think that LVO will become a grand tournament.
Oh yeah, most likely it will, and it's going to be. It might grow a little bit, but they had room to grow there at the venue, but they're going to run out of space really quickly.
Yeah. So let's talk about what this is, because this is a lot of PR speak, and they kind of, I think they did something a little bit dirty. They put this note here, this here, that's like, here, press this link. It'll get you over to our information on GTs or grand tournaments, and what they are. So what they are, the games that are supported. Unlike previous World System, grand tournaments do not feed into larger events. So GTs no longer feed into a bigger Worlds event. There's nothing bigger than a GT now.
I mean, I honestly think that's a mistake. They really should have these grand tournaments. So you have to compete at your smaller local stores to get an invite to the grand tournaments. It's a great way to set it up. You get to the grand tournament. Then when you win there, you get an invite to Worlds. You can have different ways of providing invites. You can do awards for, LVO had awards on paint.
Let's take a let's take a different approach here. Let's look at another system that's similar to here, but is effective, that we've seen as effective. The Pro Tour circuit for Magic the Gathering. Okay? You start with your PPTQs. Preliminary Pro Tour qualifiers, okay?
Yeah.
Those PPTQs feed into PTQs. Or were they RTQs? Preliminary Pro Tour qualifiers. Yeah, PTQs. They feed into Pro Tour qualifiers, okay? And those are regional Pro Tour qualifiers. So you win PPTQs, you go into an RTQ, regional tour qualifier, and then once you get through that top 8 from the PTQ, go to Pro Tour.
But there's a thing with that. These events are not large enough, or not as large as Magic.
That is true.
Like I said, it's going to be the small local events in their shops that's going to send them over to your grand tours.
Grand tournaments. So that's what I'm thinking, is these like smaller store championships, top 8 should feed into a regional GT.
Yeah, and then once you compete there, because you're not going to send one person from every tournament. No. To set it up where and even to have it where you can have top 3 go to Worlds, but you can also throw in other qualifiers. I mean, some people do amazing jobs on their paint jobs. Yeah. And they get awards for their paint jobs and what they can do. Okay. You can send them to Worlds for that.
There's so much you can do here and change the nature of Worlds so much and not get rid of it.
Yeah.
So
it's also going to reduce your cost because you're not going to send over 200 people to Worlds.
Yeah. So let's look at our I'm just pulling it up now. Let's look at the so you've got the tournament structure for these. I just pulled up the tournament rules because that matters, because they essentially changed the tournament rules to allow for this. So I don't know if it talks about Armada regulations here. Here's the rules that are here. They are. Okay, so to qualify as a GT, this is what ticked me off. Let me preface, this announcement was made on April 16th. Okay? April 16th. Each year, AMG determines the total number of grand tournaments available based on its budget. From this pool, it will assign a certain number of GTs per global region. Any event qualifying may apply through our online application to be considered. Applications must be submitted for 2024 and 2025 by May 1st of 2024. This announcement came out on April 16th.
Yeah, they gave what, 2 weeks?
You have everybody that wants to have a GT now has 2 weeks to register.
You put it out on such short notice. Honestly, this next year for tournaments, they're going to have barely any. Nobody's going to sign up. You're going to have these major events, and that's it.
Yeah, because these people need to have a date of when they're going to do it. They need, essentially, they're saying, you need to plan your tournament in 2 weeks so that you can submit it to us. Because here's the application.
They made the application somewhat actually easier than it's pretty easy compared to some of the applications that I've seen. But it's still, you get 2 weeks and you have to find your venue, as well as your judges, not judges, refs, right?
Yeah, judges. They're judges. So let me look at this because you must have whether it's being sponsored by a retailer, what region it's in, the city or country. Do you already have a venue? It leaves some room for it, but you have to have 2 judges for a GT, and you have to have them when you register.
Yeah. So the only places that are, at least for this next year, that are going to have an event is probably going to be like the areas like the Las Vegas Open or the Houston, Texas Open. Those ones they've had it established that they have.
Yeah, they have people that they can call on to be judges.
Yeah, easily. So this next year, those are gonna be pretty much the regional events. The people who have had it established for years.
Yeah. So it must be held at a public venue, so any store or anything like that. It must be open to the public. I understand that. It must have 32 players, which is a premier level event, which is what these are. The event must be able to provide terrain and tables, of course. You must be able to run your event, essentially. And then you need one 16-person judge. And then you need to follow the rules exactly.
But to give people 2 weeks notice for this is ridiculous.
Yeah, you have 2 weeks to plan your entire region's worth of GTs.
You want to have you're saying we want to open this up to more of the community. For the next year or two, you're going to close it off to most of your community.
Yeah, you've just shut off so much by giving such late notice on this. You needed a month minimum.
Yeah. And we have a lot of stores here in Utah that they do small events, which is great. But
and then we have a couple large events that would want to do this. We have, Salt Lake Games Convention. We have, the Salt Lake Games Convention does host a big tournament. And so it's like, cool. Those event organizers behind the Salt Lake Games Convention, one, needed to see this within 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Read it. Not only read it, click the link to the other side and see that applications must be submitted.
Yeah. And now at this point, they have 10 days?
Yep. You have 11 technically because you can submit it on the 1st. You now have 11 days. This was released on a Tuesday.
It's just one of those things that they really screwed up this.
And this is for both
release.
Years. This is until May of 2025. You are shooting the community in the foot by not giving your TOs the time to organize all their events. Because do you honestly think your small regional tournament organizers are preparing your events a year in advance?
Yeah.
Let me discuss a little bit about Utah because the Clearfield, we have the normal tournament structure that we run. Where for the qualifiers and everything, and then we have our little tournaments that just kind of pop up.
Yeah, they're in stores all across Utah.
I think the favorite thing is we were talking to Jacob, not this Jacob, but the Jacob Thompson, our tournament TO here in Utah, and we're like, by the way, May 4th is on a Saturday, and he's like, we're doing a tournament, and we're like, can we do Sector Fleet?
Right,
but it's like you do not plan these events in the future. Because you cannot guarantee that you're going to be able to get a venue on a date unless you secure that venue ahead of time or you own the venue.
Right. And Utah has a wide variety of venues.
Oh, yeah. Dojo Games, Demolition, Oasis.
That's just it. Those are the small venues that I don't think you could get 32.
Well, that's just in Salt Lake.
Yeah.
You can get 32 in.
It's supposed to be between 32 to 64, right?
Yeah. No. Yeah. 32 is the minimum.
Yeah. So, yes, you could get 32 in Demolition Games. But
you're not going to get 60.
No. And to have a facility that can get to 60 is
difficult. Yeah, you have to plan so far ahead.
That's the thing. LVO was not just for these 4 games. Or 5 games, I think is what it was? Yeah, these 5 games. They had Warhammer. They
everything.
When you do events like that, it works out pretty well. You can get a massive venue,
and you can plan those. You do plan a year out.
Yeah.
I do understand those major like convention level events you plan out year out. But come on, you say you want to like encourage this regional play, and then you completely shut down the store championship
Yeah.
circuit.
Like I said, they should have had it where these store championships are what get you into the grand tournaments.
Store championships should feed into the GT.
Yes.
Store championships top 8 feed into the GT.
And the one that's always really rough is,
or top 4. Top 4 feed into the GT.
They're also getting rid of Worlds altogether, which is sad. You will not have a world champion.
You're going to turn Adepticon into a GT.
Oh yeah, we know that for a fact.
I went out for Worlds. I went to see the top tier play. I went to play in the biggest event Armada has ever seen.
And
why am I going next year?
They're going to see massive reduction in that. They will not. It'll be to the point where they won't need the large venue that they get.
Yeah, they won't need as large of a venue. They won't be able to run as many events. I mean, sure, I think Adepticon can run multiple events. You know, they can still be like, we're having our GT. And everyone's like, but yeah, why am I going for a GT? You know, you're going to have fun. You're going for the sector fleet. You're going for the announcements. You're going for the convention as a whole. You're no longer going because I am a world. I qualified for Worlds. I am competing in something bigger.
Yeah. Like I said, I honestly think they needed it to feed into Worlds. They needed these GTs to feed into Worlds. Because for them to set it up where it feeds into Worlds, they're significantly reducing their cost, as well as you still, Worlds is the only place that most of people in the U.S. are going to play against somebody from another
Germany.
country.
Yeah. So what I think is, again, what GT, they need to establish 2 things. One, with these GTs, they need to establish open GTs and invitational GTs.
Yeah.
Open GTs are your public ones. LVO, that kind of thing, where you're like, yeah, but they still need to have Adepticon, like our Worlds tournament, even if they just have to call it the Worlds Grand Tournament. They have to call it a grand tournament. Still say it is by invitation only.
Yeah.
It is an invitational.
And you can set it where the amount of players is like 60.
Yeah. You set the max players. Sure. And that's the thing. You're like, okay, yeah, this is an invitational. And they're worried about the cost. So eliminate that. If you want to eliminate super invites, eliminate super invites. Be like, okay, we cannot afford to send you all to Worlds and pay for all of your travel and tickets and everything for our premier level event winners. If the GT tournament organizers want to do a super ticket, that is on them.
Yeah, then it's the GT that has to pay for the
GT is on the hook for the ticket.
Yeah, they're the ones that's going to pay for it. It cuts your costs down, as well as by reducing the amount of players that are going to be going to Worlds, it's going to significantly reduce the amount of players. You're going to open up the community more in those regions, because they're going to go, okay, let's go compete in our stores to get into the regionals. Let's see if we can fight our way to Worlds.
Yeah, you no longer, if you remove the store play structure and made it so that everybody who goes to Worlds has to rip and claw their way to victory in an RT, you're like top four from a major regional RT go to Worlds. Our Worlds tournament will be 32 players.
Yeah,
or 64 players.
I'd say 64. Max it out for what they're saying, because they said it starts at 32 and it can go up to like 67 or 64
or something like that.
Yeah, max it out. That way, you're
so technically there's no cap on it. A GT can have any number of players. They just need a judge for every 16 people.
Yeah, but the most reasonable is 64 for a large tournament like a Worlds tournament. You're going to want 64. That way they have to fully fight each other. That's just how it should be set up.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is this completely removes top level play. They're saying we want to foster top level play in the in regional events. Cool. Your regional metas are now locked in as your meta. You're gonna have to travel the GT circuit if you want regional, like
If you want to get a
play against new
diversity.
metas. If you want to play against a diverse meta, you have to travel. Because you talk about regional metas. Okay, some regional metas have an abundance of onagers. So you're seeing double onagers everywhere, and everyone's like, okay, so you're either playing double onager or you're playing counterplay against double onager. Other events are going, well, we have a bunch of players that play a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
So like our local community our Utah community, I think, has like 3 or 4 separatist players total. You'll never play against the separatists.
Yeah. I mean, when we went to LVO.
Let me preface this before the Utah community immediately eviscerates me for my lack of knowledge on how many people play separatists. I'm taking this information based on what I've seen at the last few tournaments that I've played in. I played up in Clearfield. I played in the Utah Open, and taking around the community. There was one separatist in Clearfield at that store championship, which is a bigger store. It's where they hold a lot of the Armada events. And then I think there was 2 separatists in the Utah Open. I make the 4th separatist.
And like I said, when we went to LVO, how many separatists played at LVO?
Like 4.
Yeah, there was barely. I mean, yes, Armada did not have a large footprint at LVO.
But that's a different issue because they made their own mistakes.
Yeah, that's gonna be changed probably next year. I mean,
yeah, because the thing about LVO is they didn't plan for Armada to be happening there at all until the community went, we want this, and then they had more numbers than the year before. They maxed out.
And so, like I said, next year, more than likely next year, they're gonna expand Armada. They're gonna expand some of these games that did really well, because why not? I mean, we had at LVO, Legion actually didn't use, I think, 6 of their tables.
Yeah,
they just sat empty the entire time.
That's the thing, is the different games. We're talking a lot about Armada because that's the games we've been playing at this like competitive level, and we've been enjoying at this higher competitive level. We used to play Legion.
I mean, Legion's rules went really bad, but
I hated the last rule change.
things.
I set down Legion. I picked up Armada and started playing other. Besides the point, but overall, the idea of the grand tournaments was a good idea. We foster this. Cool. One, how much of this cost is on? How many of these grand tournaments are actually going to be run by Atomic Mass Games, and how many are being run by the tournament organizers? Because they're like, the budget. What do you actually have to do for a grand tournament?
Yeah.
What does the budget actually have to do for a grand tournament? Sure, you've got to print off the prize support cards, that kind of thing. Unfortunately, I don't think their budget isn't the issue entirely, because they would have more budget if they release more ships for Armada. Sorry, I'm salty about that.
And the thing is we were looking at it. A lot of the Star Wars specific games, they don't have a major growing player base.
Yeah, they're seeing some growth, but the issue is as the games are becoming more and more complicated with more and more unit diversity and more and more rule changes.
I mean, Legion is currently, as far as I can remember, Legion is losing their player base.
I don't think so. I need to double check. I haven't checked the World stuff. The Worlds just they had their own issues at Worlds. We're not going to discuss it here.
But they
had their own issue at Worlds with their player base. But the more and more units you release,
and with the rule changes and everything like that. I mean, this last rule change, they lost a lot of players. They did.
Yeah. So let's take what I've said when I picked up Legion. It's Warhammer but budget friendly.
Yeah.
It no longer is. It no longer is. Before, with Legion, you could pick up the core set and a couple other units, and your army would be perfect. You'd have your army, and you'd go. Most of your stuff could come out of the core box. Now you're like, or you'd pick up a bunch of side pieces like shore troopers and everything, build your army that way. Now what do we have? Stormtroopers, shore troopers. Now like range
dark
troopers, dark troopers. There's so many different units that a new player is going to.
That's not even including the vehicles. I mean, you've got speeders, tauntauns, what is it?
Speeders, Tauntauns, Barks. The
I mean,
competitive level lists are also becoming more and more stale.
yeah, I mean,
Triple Barks has been around forever,
Well,
but now
now
we have
it's-
quadruple Barks.
and they're all running, and those players all run the same,
Same thing. They all just want to play bombing run.
and that's just it. Is Legion? They have a balancing issue.
There is a huge balancing issue with Legion that does not exist with Armada. I don't know enough about Shatterpoint to say if there's a balancing issue with Shatterpoint. Neither do I know anything about
X-wing assault.
X-Wing, it's not X-Wing Assault.
No, that's a different company.
Yeah. And you're talking about Imperial Assault.
Yeah.
X-Wing has its own issues where there was that jump from first edition to second edition that really lost a lot of people.
And that's where a lot of people have been liking Armada because it's yes, they don't have a lot of ships, but it's stayed balanced.
Well, no, Armada has a ton of ships. The difference is the ships are well balanced against each other, and you do not feel like you need every ship.
The problem is try and find a Venator. Go ahead. Go to a store, try and find it.
The issue has been since AMG took over, Armada has not been able to get product.
Yeah. I mean, the second-hand sales on a Venator is almost $200.
Yeah, you need Venators, especially after they released them for the Empire, because now you need a Venator for the Republic, because the Republic and the Separatists have their own issue where they don't have enough ships. You have for the Republic, you have the ships other than what's in the starter set is the Pelta and the Venator.
Yeah.
For the Separatists, it's the Recusant and the Providence.
And the thing is you're looking at it when you look at the ships,
And then the print and play stuff. I'm not counting the print and play stuff.
yeah. I mean, if their issue is painting, then that's going to be that's simple. I mean, I'm trying to think the game that's coming out in August. Heroescape. They did an amazing job by going, okay, yeah, we'll offer the fully painted ones, but we're going to also offer the unpainted and make it cheaper.
Yeah, that is a brilliant way to do it.
It lowers manufacturing costs. It helps get the product out for people to play.
Yeah, what you do is you do batches of painted. Essentially, you do releases of painted ships. You go, okay, so these dates we'll release it. We'll put it out there, and if we get enough orders, then we'll send the people who ordered painted ships, and then you send the unpainted ships to be the ones that are sold in stores.
And if you wanted to, you could even set it up where, I mean, there's a lot of people that, as far as painting their ships, they just paint some lines on it, which, okay, it's great. You can also set it up where your grand tournaments, one of the awards for prize support,
Painting.
a specific painted figure that is distinct for the events.
And that would be up to the TO.
And not necessarily those specific qualifying events, but
yeah, you win GT, you get the 2024 painted Venator.
yeah. And it's just something that is unique for that year.
And it's like, yeah, so you just paint a limited number of these. They're included in the cost of running the event. It's not that big because the price support, honestly, at these events is limited, like LVO and at Worlds. I was very much disappointed.
Most of them were cards.
In the World stuff, in the card stuff, the fact that they only did cards. LVO did something really cool where the best faction got like a little picture plaque.
Yeah.
Of their faction, best in faction. But overall, I'm like, there's so much that you could do that you guys are not doing, and that's just Armada. What about Legion?
Yeah. I mean, Legion does not sell painted minifigures. You have to paint those. Which, okay, that's great. That's never been an issue with
what
players.
About my biggest thing is they don't even need to paint them. Do you know what they can do? For the winners, guess what you do? The what you do at Adepticon in the Worlds, where you give out you would give out that was it given out? No, it wasn't given out. It was sold, or it was given as prize support. The unique that year unit, like the custom base. So like the operative Luke that we have, the Commander Luke that we
Yeah.
have that they sold in 2020, or gave him to the stores. Do that for the GTs. That's the reward. That is the win for the GT. Is that
Yeah.
unit?
Or you can also take and set it up. A lot of players have custom dials and stuff like that they
In Armada, yeah, you print special dials. You
Yeah.
print that kind of thing to be like, these are your rewards.
Because
they're
it's-
effective. They're not hard to manufacture. They're easy.
and it's something that is unique for that year, and it's something that it eventually becomes a collector's item.
Yeah, Armada does its dice, which are not enough. I think that the inclusion of, hey, we are doing special dials, we're doing special attachments, special versions of the ship, special stands.
Yeah.
Anything like that you could do. There's so many things that they can do to make the premiere events feel like premiere events, these GTs, and it wouldn't be a budget issue. Honestly, overall, I think this is a dumb I actually don't think I would say it's a dumb decision, except for it's a good concept. I do not trust AMG to execute it properly.
Yeah, they've made a series of mistakes lately that people have started losing interest in the community, which is you don't want to do that. I mean,
Well, it's
this
not,
is
it's
supposed
not
to
losing
build.
interest in the community. Let's take Armada. We're doing Armada, for example, because that is the game that I've been playing. Armada's community has so much engagement. The Armada community is so close knit and so
And it's been growing.
yeah, and has been growing. But AMG is not supporting that growth with unit releases, with keeping things manufactured and on the shelves. And I get it. You don't want to, hey, we don't want a bunch of units that nobody uses sitting on the shelf. But you should see, wait a second, the secondary market is selling a Venator for as much as a Superstar Destroyer.
Or let's see here. I mean, we also look at Legion because that's another area that we've played. They've put a lot of time and money into new units and stuff like that, but they haven't taken the time to go through, get feedback from the community to see why is competitive play becomes stagnant on the same units in the same form.
Why is with all the new units, with all the new releases, with all of it, why is a list that came out before the Clone Wars still one of the most competitively viable lists?
Yeah.
Something is not working.
They need to play test with the community to figure it out. And that, I mean, yes, you can play test within your own company, and it's a great way to do small form testing. But to see how the competitive field is going to see it, you need to talk to them. You need to
build a community of playtesters. Build a community of playtesters. Do different events where you're like, hey, yeah, no, we're playtesting this unit. Go. So let's take HeroScape, for example, again. Because I think Renegade's doing something really good with HeroScape.
Yeah.
So a couple weeks ago, HeroScape put out, hey, we're looking for playtesters.
Yeah.
It was a form you filled out. Hey, after every battle, you'll need to, every match you play with the playtested materials, you'll need to fill out a battle report. Tell us about your previous experience with the game. Tell us about your war game experience overall. Can you dedicate 3 to 5 hours a week to play this game, to test this material? It's like you're reaching out to your community to get the play testing done. And it's like, do you know who the best people to reach out for this play testing are? And I'm not just saying this because I create the content creators.
Yeah. And not only
Put them
that,
under an NDA.
yeah. And not only that, but you can send them the new stuff that's coming out and say, hey, this is what we're planning on releasing. Play test it. I want to know how you're going to play it and how the competitors are going to play it. Set up a video for it. We will let you release that video when we come out with the
Yeah, it's like, yeah. So
actual
you'll
models.
have a video. This is when you send it out a couple months before. You're like, here's this stuff. Can you spend a couple hours a week play testing this? Send us what you think. Test different ways to play. Come back to us. tell us how it went, and then we can release it. That avoids something like the Anakin Skywalker situation.
As well as they can also take
Well,
and
do you remember what happened when Anakin first got released as an admiral for Armada?
I do not.
He was busted, flat busted. So his thing was whenever you perform an attack, you can perform a salvo attack as well. Now, the issue was there were some rules like, by the way, not only can you attack then salvo, you can salvo then salvo.
So there was a loophole in the rules that allowed you to pretty much continuously attack for
Yeah,
almost as much as you
as
wanted.
long as you had the salvo token. And it's like, okay, that's broken. And if you have a ton of ships, you're salvoing. The fact that every ship gets 2 counterattacks against the ship that is attacking it, he was flat busted, and the community picked up on it, and they had to completely rewrite the card in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And now Anakin is practically useless.
Which, I mean, that could be an over adjustment, or
They went over adjustment. If they just clarified, Anakin can only perform 1 salvo attack, or it's only the ship that Anakin's on that can perform extra salvo attacks, and everyone else just here's what Anakin can be. After you perform an attack, after you perform a non-salvo attack, you may perform a salvo attack. Okay? After this ship performs a non-salvo attack, it may perform a salvo attack. Now you're not double salvoing.
Yeah.
It may spend a salvo token to do that. Other ships or friendly ships, when they perform a salvo attack, may add 1 blue dice to their attack pool.
Yeah.
Not broken. Worth 35 points. Your salvo attacks get an extra die. Pelta is so much better. But they went so hard with it, and not play testing your stuff causes your erratas to be so overdone because you're like, this will be fun. And then it completely breaks a super balanced game.
Exactly. And the way that I see it when you bring your community into it and tell them, hey, we want to play test with our community, and not only like with Legion where you have to paint your minifigures, you can tell them, hey, send us some of the stuff that you painted. We'll send you the new units. Paint them, send it to us. We want to use your models as advertisement.
As advertising, you can do painting. There's so much you can do when you involve the community, and that's the big thing that Atomic Mass is doing, is that community engagement they're trying to gather. I don't feel like these grand tournament stuff is enough. We're going over on time, so we need to wrap this up. Because we could go into the problems that Atomic Mass games, because a ton of problems have cropped up with Atomic Mass games. This is just another nail there where they're going, we're doing away with worlds.
And they're missing it. They have a way that they can set things up really well if they have the right people. I mean, the next 2 years for these,
it's going to be crucial.
That's just it. These next 2 years, they're gonna these large events like LVO and stuff, and these major
they will not be
opens.
sanctioned GTs.
Well, that's just it. LVO will definitely become.
Oh yeah, it'll be a sanctioned GT.
It's going to be these large events that used to be the opens are going to become the GTs, and that's what it's going to be for the next 2 years.
Yeah, we need something. Like, you need something to feed into, because who's the cream of the crop? Like, you'll have your community heads that are like, yeah, this is the best player in our community. He wins the GT. And then it's like, we have some people that come from out of town. Sometimes they win, but we're like, who's the cream of the crop? Who is our top 8, and what are they playing?
And not only that, but if you have the same region over, it's going to be, if it's the same area over and over again, it's going to be to the point where you're going to have one person who won that region 6 times in a row.
It's going to create the same issue. The top level play is going to get stale, but in different ways.
Yeah. But I mean, I think that having the regionals is a good idea, but I do think they need to keep Worlds.
This is going to matter so much on execution.
Yes.
This is a all right idea. It's a risky idea, and their execution of it needs to be flawless.
And more than likely, we'll have to come back to this after we see the outcome of it, just
Yep.
to see what
We're gonna have to
happens.
cover this a year later and be like, this is how it went.
Yep.
And then be like, we were wrong. Everybody did register in time. We got it right. Or we got to come back and go, nobody registered in time. There was next to no GTs.
Yep.
We have to come back because again, this is gonna be the execution has to be right.
But like Isaiah was saying, we're out of time, and
Yep. So if you want to hear more about this, or you just want to watch us play some games, we're going to be setting up. We're going to be playing some Zelda as we always do.
feel free to check out our YouTube channel and subscribe if you want.
No. If they want, they are 45 minutes into this episode. If they want to hear us beg for a subscription, they will be sorely disappointed.
Of course. But like I said,
If they came to hear me beg for it, it will not happen. Subscribe if you want, but I am not begging for it.
I'm meaning on YouTube.
Either way, I am not begging for it. But check out our other stuff. We've got a ton of other stuff to offer. I'm not beyond that. All right. I've been your host, Isaiah.
I'm Dragon Master Jake.
We're logging out.